This is He Knows Everything, bringing you that heat. For we keeping a foot on the wood, Higgs. We keeping a foot on the wood, Higgs. And like the Tibetan Master that I am, I'm applying what? Unlimited pressure. Because pressure does what? It bursts his pipes. Let's talk about it, man. See, this is what a lot of people need to understand, especially when it's associated with the likes of Billy Joe Saunders. All this stuff they doing right now is for promotion. You see Tyson Fury running his rabbit ass mouth. Fight fair, Canelo Alvarez. Billy Joe Saunders, fight fair, Canelo Alvarez. They know the fix is in. See, this is what makes me laugh. You got too many boxing fans. They so get caught up in boxing that they don't want to accept the three-pronged monster of economics, politics, and pugilism. He Knows Everything told you guys, man. Boxing is a dark sport. Boxing is an economics, politics, and pugilism aspect sport. If you don't see boxing this way, and you don't open your three-pronged monster eyes to see boxing for what it is, a three-pronged monster, then you're deluded. You're a brain full of mush and a brainwashed dodo head. And you can choose to be neurolinguistic programmed. Canelo Alvarez is the LeBron James of boxing, man. His role is to basically delude you. Basically mess with your neuron receptors, man. Mess with your corpus callosum and in your cerebellum. Mess with your medulla oblongata. Mess with your mental capacity for you to not see straight. And you got Cinammon Alvarez fanboys sniffing the Cinammon Alvarez, basically what we would say cinnamon fucking dust, like the blue blood sports TVs of the world. Don't come over here and start saying the fight is fixed. See, this is the problem with black community boxing fan bases like these guys. Losers, doofuses, buffoons, and fucking coons. They don't know which way they want to go. They 50-50. They straddle the fence. But He Knows Everything told you about blue fence straddling TV. He's a fence straddling beta. So he's going to straddle whatever fence basically goes his way. Don't try to sound like He Knows Everything now. It's a things that make you say, It's a things that make you say, You can't sound like He Knows Everything. He Knows Everything is the only person that's kept it authentic and consistent from day one. He told you guys about cinnamon dust of a horchata of Alvarez. People laugh when He Knows Everything uses that terminology, cinnamon dust of a horchata of a fucking Alvarez. But he's a horchata. He's milk. He's cinnamon fucking dust because he's a dust of a horchata of fucking Alvarez. When we look at cinnamon dust of a horchata of a Alvarez, we see a fraud. We see a fraudulent boxer. We see a guy who is the sham artist of boxing, hence the name. He's the LeBron James of boxing. These so-called black community fan bases was right there not too long ago sniffing the cinnamon dust and telling you, Saul Canelo Alvarez, he can box, he got skills. Look at everyone that he's trained. Ryan Garcia on suicide watch against Gervonta Tank Davis because he knows Gervonta Tank Davis will literally what? Tank his ass. Let me say it again. He trained Ryan Garcia, right? He was training his ass in the gym. What he was training him was clean glutarol. That's why this motherfucker had to take it. A guy that has stamina field issues that had to take clean glutarol cannot train a fucking boxer because you can't last in the ring, let alone shoulder roll. Do you understand the level of stamina the shoulder roll takes? That's why it is an oxymoron. It is a catch-22 that a guy with a stamina field issue of taking clean got called out by Bernard Hopkins, by the way. That's why him and Bernard Hopkins, they're not on the same team no more, because Bernard Hopkins' challenge greatness personification can only be hindered. The motherfucker can't be stopped. And when he tried to challenge it too much, he had to end up towing the line. He had to end up bending the proverbial fucking knee and kissing the ring while you at it. He had to end up basically kissing ass so that things can work in his fucking favor. But in this most cold-hearted, unadulterated, and cutthroat fashion, it's as simple as this, y'all. When we sit here and look at the delineation, the distinction, the gulf, and the separation that's associated with cinnamon dust of a horchata of a Alvarez, look at Andy Ruiz. Technically, he lost to Chris Arreola. Nobody can tell me otherwise. But he had cinnamon dust of a horchata try to train him on shoulder roll. It's a things that make you say, It's a things that make you say, See, He Knows Everything is basically the one to point out the obvious. And what is the obvious? The obvious is that Cinnamon dust of a horchata is what he is. A cinnamon dust of a fucking horchata. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat true teller fashion. Now let's get back to the context at hand, because we can contextualize like nobody's business. Billy Joe Saunders and Tyson Fury are part of a prevalent problem. You want to know what the prevalent problem is? These two guys, they're white. Cinnamon dust of a horchata is white too. In Civil War, and I'm going to explain how white people get down. A lot of people don't understand how they get down. I understand how they get down because I'm a business connoisseur, a business professional, and I have business acumen at the highest fucking level. And when you do business, you got to do business with them, because the bottom line is they're at the top of the fucking food chain. So when you want to make money, you got to break bread with the top of the food chain so that you can hence become the top of the food chain yourself. That's another conversation in of itself. That's a true alpha extraordinaire governed by true alpha economics conversation in of itself. I'll talk about that shit in another video when I'm talking about alpha beta shit. But in this video, you got to understand, Cinnamon dust, look at him. Caucasian masquerading as a Mexican. When have you ever seen a Caucasian bend the proverbial fucking knee to a Mexican, let alone a native version of a Mexican? Could you imagine if this was a native Mexican? You think Tyson Fury would have ran his rabbit ass mouth? You think Billy Joe Saunders would have ran his rabbit ass mouth to say play fair? White people do this shit to each other because they know there's a pecking order. On the pecking order of white civil war, meaning on the pecking order of where white people stand amongst themselves, cinnamon dust of a horchata stands on a higher plane, a higher level, a higher degree, and a higher magnitude than Billy Joe Saunders. He's a bigger fucking name, bigger fucking profile. So as much as Billy Joe Saunders want to say play fair, you signed on the dotted line for paid to fucking lose. You signed on the dotted line for super paid to fucking lose. You signed on the dotted line for boxing, gifting, judging decisions. Who's the only one that was telling you this shit from day one? He knows everything. That's bringing you that what? That heat and that fart. And keeping the foot on the what? Dicks. And keeping the foot on the what? Dicks. And like the Tibetan mastiff that I am, I'm applying what? Unlimited pressure. Because pressure does what? Eat versus pipes. It was he knows everything, man. Now you got all of these cockroaches. La cucaracha, la cucaracha. Yo no puedo caminar. La cucarachas, la cucarachas. Yo no puedo caminar. You got a bunch of these scattering ass fucking cockroaches on YouTube, i.e. brain full of mush and brainwashed dodo head YouTubers, losers, doofuses, buffoons, and fucking coons, spelled out in acronym form, LDBC. That wants to come down, fix their rabbit ass mouths, and tell you what he knows everything's been telling you from day one. This is the difference. This is the delineation. This is the distinction, the gulf, and the separation between the authenticity and the consistency of a he knows everything and these guys. Because which one is it? Keep that same energy, dog. Which one is it? Keep that same energy, dog. Is it Cinnamon Dust of a Horchata is a great boxer? He has great fucking boxing skills, and Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andrade needs to fight each other so that they can prove which one is worthy to fight the cinnamon dust of a fucking horchata? A guy who really is not a reminiscent guy. Cash cow my ass. Jorge Masvidal that got knocked the fuck out by Usman, dog. This same Jorge Masvidal was the one that cinnamon dust of a horchata, when he fought Sergey Kovalev, had to wait for that Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz fight to happen first. But he's supposedly a cash cow in boxing. The same cinnamon dust of a horchata that told you that Earl the True Spence is his hardest competition. And that Earl the True Spence will work him like nobody's business. You know why? Because Earl the True Spence is an Energizer Bunny. He keeps going and going and going and going of tactical aggression, technical punching placement, and body snatching work. The Levy-on style, the punishment style. Billy Joe Saunders was a hand-picked opponent by cinnamon dust of a horchata. When cinnamon dust of a horchata of Alvarez handpicks you, that means you're paid to lose. That means you're a super paid to lose. That means you're a rehydration clause. That means you're a wounded animal. That means you're a cherry picker. That means that you don't have 9 to 13 weeks of a training camp. That means that basically the new version of the fucking sob story. That means that basically you're a fucking catch weight. It has to fall under one of those. And let's not forget the infamous boxing, gifting, judging decision, Adelaide Bird. You're going to fall under one of those situations. But in this instance, it's going to be the boxing, gifting, judging decision and a paid to lose sprinkled on top of that with a cherry on fucking top. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat telefashion. There's nobody on YouTube that gave you this level of authenticity, that gave you this level of consistency. Now you got Tyson Fury saying this out of his mouth. Now you got Billy Joe Saunders saying this out of their mouths. When everyone knows it was He Knows Everything that's been the only one saying it. Everybody else thought that He Knows Everything's crazy. Let me explain something to you guys. Genius is madness, dog. Those that are the most genius people on the fucking planet are the most weird individuals. That's why He Knows Everything is pegged as the most weirdest individual on the planet. Because his genius is second to none. His genius is like nothing you've ever seen before. It's Nostradamus. It's Sun Tzu, aka Art of War. It's 7 steps ahead of the game. It's 48 laws of power on that fucking ass. It's Genghis Khan. It's so many different iterations, so many different aspects, so many different variations, and so many different forms. Because when it's all said and done, we have to tell ourselves a cold-hearted. We have to tell ourselves an unadulterated, and we have to tell ourselves a cutthroat true telefashion. And what is that? That cinnamon dust of a horchata is what the fuck he is. A cinnamon dust of a horchata. Boxing is a 3-pronged monster. Economics, politics, and pugilism. You notice all of these supposed boxing pundits, when shit don't go their way, that's when they want to enact it. They want to say that boxing is a dark sport. Boxing's always a dark sport. And if you pick and choose when it's a dark sport, stop the presses and pump the brakes on the nonsense. Go sit down somewhere and what? Higgity fucking hot. If you call yourself a black community fan base, you're supposed to be keeping the foot on cinnamon dust of a horchata's neck 1,000% of the times. Because that's when you're supposed to be bringing up Jamal Charlo. You're supposed to be bringing up Demetrius Andrade. But see, black people are so divided and black people are so easily conquered. That's why they call it divide and conquer or conquer and divide. Because that's what it is at its truest and its most properest levels. You gotta understand, the white man has mastered the art for 500 plus years of conquering and dividing, or dividing and conquering these brain full of mush and brainwashed fucking dodo heads. So when they sit here and say that cinnamon dust of a horchata is a great boxer, when in actuality he's not. When they sit here and tell you that Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo needs to prove themselves, when in actuality they don't. Because cinnamon dust of a horchata has been ducking Jamal Charlo for a record 8+ fucking years. Demetrius Andrade is on the same zone. He's ducking him left and right. Who would leave 160? The super version of the middleweight division. And we're not talking about super middleweight by weight class. Obviously, that's 168. We're talking about the middleweight 160 because it's the transitional division in boxing. The division that Marvin Hagler, arguably the greatest middleweight of all time, made fucking famous, along with Bernard Hopkins, along with Roy Jones Jr. You would think having names like that, Marvelous, Executioner, and Roy fucking Jr., Roy Jones Jr., you would think that cinnamon dust of a horchata would step up to the fucking plate. But in its most cold-hearted, in its most unadulterated, in its most cutthroat true telefashion, Billy Joe Saunders already signed his fate before he signed his fucking fate. So right now, what he's doing is he's promoting. So when you got a blue Finch Straddler TV that wants to jock and ride the Finch straddling wave of now He Knows Everything, it's a things that make you say, It's a things that make you say, So in this most cold-hearted, unadulterated, and cutthroat true telefashion, that's why losers, doofuses, buffoons, and coons, they've lost all notoriety. They've lost all respect. Because it took He Knows Everything to take these motherfuckers down. Now that He Knows Everything has conquered their asses, and he's the conquistador that he is, and took their rabbit asses down in only the fashion that he could on YouTube, because he is Floyd Mayweather-esque with his ability to take motherfuckers down, and his Genghis Khan was activated. Hence the man above said, I have activated your Genghis Khan, because you are now unleashed as the punishment of God to basically deal with their losers, doofuses, buffoons, and coons, copycat fucking strength-faddling sins. So in this most cold-hearted, unadulterated, and cutthroat truth teller fashion, they've lost all notoriety. They've lost all integrity. They've lost all credibility to talk about cinnamon dust of a horchata. There's only one person on YouTube that's authorized, calculated, verified, and certified to talk about cinnamon dust of a horchata. And that's He Knows Everything. That's bringing you that what? That heat, that fart. And keeping the foot on the what? Eggs. And keeping the foot on the what? Eggs. And like the Tibetan mastiff that he is, he's applying what? Unlimited pressure. Because pressure does what? It bursts his pipes. Because when it's all said and done, Billy Joe Saunders is on a lower echelon level in this civil war called Caucasian warfare. It's a guerrilla warfare. Cinnamon dust of a horchata is just a higher build Caucasian. Bigger fucking name. Bigger fucking profile. And bigger money. And if you think the Zone, who's invested $33.5 million on a 10-fight deal, I don't know if this motherfucker's 5 or 6 fights in, they still got another 4 to 5 more fights to collect off this motherfucker. If you think him and Tyson Fury running their rabbit-ass mouth saying you better fight fair is going to change things, stop the presses and pump the brakes on the nonsense. Go sit down somewhere and what? Higgity fucking hush. Billy Joe Saunders, you signed your fate, dog. You signed, sealed, and delivered like UPS. We know that you are fucking paid to lose. Mixed, basically, manufactured, basically, intermingled, and basically misc in what we also call boxing judging gifting decisions. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat truth teller fashion. I keeps the foot on the what? The eggs. I keeps the foot on the what? The eggs. This is He Knows Everything. Check it out.